Shalom. This video is about 5 special Shabbatot in the spring. Now, when you look at a Hebrew calendar, you'll sometimes see something that says Shabbat Mevorchim, which comes 11 times a year, and it's before every new month in the Jewish calendar, except for Tishrei, when Rosh Hashanah falls, where on the Saturday before we have a special blessing where we bless Mevorchim, the new month. You'll also find from time to time that a special name on a Jewish calendar, the name of the Sabbath, every week has a special name like that for the name of the Torah portion. But these are 5 special Shabbatot that occur in the spring around Purim and Pesach. And let me just tell you what they are. And in 4 of them, there's extra Bible readings that we have. The first one is Shabbat Shekalim. Now, a shekel is an ancient form of coin. It's also kind of a current coin form, dollar form in Israel. But Shabbat Shekalim reads a passage that we actually are reading this week in the synagogue in 2008. Excuse me, and then we read it again for Shabbat Shekalim in 2 weeks. That is the passage in Exodus which reminds us that we have to bring a half a shekel, our ancestors thousands of years ago, half a shekel to the temple. That was a way they could do a census, they could count up how many soldiers they had, they could raise money for the temple, and that was due before Pesach, and so this was the reminder week in which that was called, Shabbat Shekalim. And today again reminds us of our responsibility to help support synagogues and Jewish life with contributions. The next special week that comes is called Shabbat Zachor, and this always comes on the Sabbath before Purim. Now, if you want to know more about it, you should watch my video on Purim, but basically we read there a special maftir, a special additional Torah portion, where we talk about the horrible nation Amalek and the dastardly deeds they did in inflicting cruel and unusual armed pain upon nations, and especially upon Israel. Instead of fighting man to man, they'd attack from the rear and try and get the stragglers, the old people, and the children. Kind of like Hamas now shooting rockets blindly at Israeli civilians, just trying to hurt anybody they can. So this kid loses an arm, and so. It's completely different than Israel's desire for peace and Israel's desire to stop Hamas, and sometimes casualties occur, sadly and coincidentally, very different than Hamas blindly shooting rockets trying to kill and hurt as many people as they can, just like Amalek. Now, the reason why it's read on the Shabbat before Purim is because historically they link Amalek to the story that we read in the Haftorah that day in the prophets about Samuel and Saul and the king of Amalek, who, when the Amalekites were killed in a battle and the king was left alive, according to tradition, he sired a fellow who became the ancestor of the evil anti-Semite in the Purim story in the 400s BCE in Persia, named Haman. And of course, the Haggadah for Passover tells us in every generation there arises someone who tries to destroy us, which has happened time and time again. And so that's one of the themes of the Purim story, and so we read that on the Sabbath before. Shabbat Zachor, Zachor means to remember. The third special Shabbat is called Shabbat Parah. And here we read in a special maftir, additional Torah reading that Shabbat, a selection from the book of Numbers, Parshat Chukat, which tells us about the red heifer and the special ceremony that was done with the ashes of a red heifer to cleanse ritual impurity. This is because in the ancient times in the Bible, to participate in the Passover Seder, you had to be ritually pure, and you had to be ready for it, and so this was read, Parshat Parah, about the red heifer in Numbers, to remind people to be ritually pure. Now, we don't have the temple anymore, we don't have that ritual anymore, but we still read it as historical memory and about the importance of purifying oneself and one's house for the holiday of Passover. And then, on the Shabbat before the new month of Nisan, it's called Shabbat Hachodesh, and we read the special passage about Nisan, because we're getting ready 2 weeks later for the great festival of Passover. Now, the 5th one doesn't have any special readings. It's called Shabbat Hagadol, the Great Sabbath. And most people believe it's the Great Sabbath because it was long. Why was it long? Because there used to be, in ancient times, the rabbi spoke twice a year, once on the Sabbath between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, to inspire and exhort the people to do teshuvah, repentance, and you can see my video on repentance. And the other time was on the Sabbath before Passover, telling in great detail how do you keep Passover, because it's so complicated. Now, if you want to see contemporary ways of keeping Passover, you can look on the East Synagogue website, or on my blog, Rabbi Reflects, or on the synagogue website, and we have instructions about how to do that. In any case, that is Shabbat Hagadol. So those are the 5 special Shabbatot: Shabbat Shekalim, Shabbat Zachor, Shabbat Parah, Shabbat Hachodesh, and Shabbat Hagadol. The 5 special Sabbaths in the spring around Purim and Passover time.